All right, everyone, a couple of things I want to talk about this evening. The stadium and plans for redevelopment or a new stadium, and also the Munich anniversary yesterday. We'll start with the stadium and a story that was out yesterday suggesting that Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants to build quote Wembley of the North, implying that he was going to, or United were going to sanction knocking down Old Trafford and building either on the same site or somewhere else a brand new stadium, and that's caused quite a bit of debate. I'll put my neck on the line and say, for me personally, I'm a traditionalist. I would rather us stay within the shell of Old Trafford and build it up incrementally over a period of time. I also think that's the only option, because a new stadium costs £2 billion. We're £1 billion in debt. I don't know where that money's coming from to build a new stadium. So it's a non-debate, really. People are talking about it as if these are two very, very viable options. We can do the brand new stadium, or we can incrementally improve it. Where are we getting £2 billion to buy a new stadium, to spend on a new stadium? We have no money. The club has no money. The Glazers have no money. We're £1 billion in debt and we need £2 billion. You do the maths. It doesn't add up. There's talk of government grants. Andy Burnham's been involved. That we could sell the naming rights. None of that equates to £2 billion, unless I'm missing something, and maybe I am. I wouldn't have a massive problem with us knocking the stadium down and then rebuilding it from scratch, if you like, on the same site as Old Trafford. Ultimately, we haven't got any choice, have we? We don't have any choice with the takeover. We're not getting any choice on this. But I'd read during the takeover process, actually, that if Sir Jim got his hands on United, and you could argue he has or he hasn't, but that regarding the stadium, his preference was to just keep redeveloping it over a period of time, and it might take between 7 to 10 years, but then we'd have like a super stadium. And I think that's probably realistic, in that then you're probably spending 200 or 300 million quid each time you're improving bits of the stadium that you need to improve stand by stand. Maybe it might cost a little bit more each time, and a bit less depending on how big that area is. Obviously, we've got some areas of urgent need which we need to get into a state of that are in a state of disrepair and need to be sorted out quickly. But you've also got to remember that we don't have any money, and we need quite a lot of money spent on squad development over the next few years. So I absolutely expect that there will be money put aside for stadium redevelopment over a period of time. But any surplus money we have on top of that has to be spent on the squad, because we need to spend a lot of money just to get up to par in terms of the squad, and then we've got to maintain that. And that's gonna cost quite a bit of money. So the Glazers aren't going to put any money into it. What the Glazers hope from this, I imagine, is that they want someone else to. They would want it to be completely someone else's financial responsibility. That none of the money at United is the Glazers' money, but they wouldn't even sanction money that's not theirs. They won't even sanction club money to put towards the stadium. I don't think they want someone else to completely come in and do it, and then they reap the benefits from it, because that's the way they work. I love Sir Jim's kind of youthful outlook, because he's 71, he's 72 this year, but he keeps talking about plans for the future in terms of, like, in 10 years we might do this, in 5 years we might do that. And as I said, I'd read that he was quite prepared to play the long game with the stadium. That's what I'd read previously. Maybe that's changed, I don't know, but I'd still like to know where this money is coming from to fund this. If you had any kind of doubt that you still need to protest against the Glazers and that we still need them to go, then I'd say the fact that we potentially might have to knock down our stadium, that 19 years ago was the best stadium in the country, and we might have to knock it down so bad as the neglect bin on their watch because of them. That's solely at their door, and they have not put anything into the stadium whatsoever. They've done nothing to it for 19 years. And because of that neglect, now we're in a position where potentially we might have to knock it down. That's our home. It's sacred. It's spiritual for me to go there. And we might have to knock it down. and it was the best, you're like, come on. If ever you needed to, if ever you needed a reason to continue to protest, that's got to be it. It's scandalous. It really is absolutely scandalous that it might come to that point. As much as I've said before, there are there's parts of it that are in a state of disrepair. There's parts in it of it that probably aren't passing safety or are very close to not passing safety regulations. It's in a pretty poor state. I have to say, it doesn't look like it needs to be knocked down. I don't think. I think it just needs quite a lot of money putting into it to redevelop it and to make it better. But I can see it working where you put £300 million in, for example, in the next year and a half or whatever, and we develop part of it. There's another 300 million. That I can see where that money comes from. I don't see where £2 billion bang like that comes from. So for me, it's a non-debate. So out of our hands, what will happen will happen. But I could take it staying at the same site and being knocked down. I don't think I could cope with it being somewhere else. And this week obviously is the Munich Memorial and the Munich anniversary, and it's a reminder of the history of the club. Excuse me. And Old Trafford is that. Talking about it being rebuilt and stuff. It was bombed during the war, and we had to rebuild it. It's unrecognisable to some degree from what I first saw when I went in the late 80s, but the shell of it is the same, and it's still that beautiful from the outside figure, the cathedral of what of Manchester United. So my preference would be that we just incrementally improve it. And as I say, I think that's the only option. Just on the Munich service yesterday, Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Sir David Brailsford were there, and lots of people have said, the Glazers haven't been. I might be wrong in this, but I don't think they've been once. So correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sorry if I am wrong, but they've had 19 chances to go to the Munich anniversary service, and they've not been to one. And that means that 2008, which was the 50th anniversary, there was no representation from them there. 2018, which was the 60th anniversary, there was no representation from them there. Munich shaped this club. The modern Manchester United wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Munich. There's players that passed away whilst doing something that was pioneering. No other English club wanted to play in Europe. The Football League and the FA didn't want us to play in Europe. And Sir Matt Busby was a pioneer and saw that we wanted to go and test ourselves against Europe's finest. So our young team was revered not just in England but across Europe for the way we played football. They died being pioneers. That's what Man United's about. Youth, pioneering, doing things before others. And the fact that the people that own our club haven't got the decency, the humility, or any class to go and stand in the pissing rain on a cold February day to commemorate the people that are probably the reason that they have the chance to own this club in the first place. Do you know what? To be honest, the people that they're milking off to some degree, because United wouldn't be United without what happened at Munich, and that's what the Glazers have bought. They've bought the mystique, they've bought the legend, they've bought the rebirth. They haven't bought it. Sorry, that's the wrong word to use, but they've stolen it, and they're making money off it, but they haven't even got the decency to go and turn up. It just shows you that just how little they care. They do not care at all. So it was great to see Sir Jim Ratcliffe there. It was great to see Sir David Brailsford there with Ferguson and the like, which was good. It's an open goal, it's not far for them to go. But on to the positives of it. I think it's such a sacred day in the calendar, February the 6th. It always is for me. And the fact that so many people turn out, no matter what the weather is, yeah, probably if I could guess, it's probably a lot of the older people, understandably, that go. But in a changing world, when we've got a changing fan base, and it's a fan base at times that I don't recognise and sometimes I don't like very much, it's fantastic that this event has continued to get bigger and bigger. It's not just a handful of people, it's at least hundreds of people that turn up. and the service is lovely. I watched it again yesterday via YouTube, and just kind of the guy that runs it is brilliant. There's a real Manchester feel to it. It's connected to something that was so important to our past, and it's so important that we keep that going, because year by year, as we know, people get older, people pass away. Sir Bobby was the last surviving member of Munich, and he's no longer with us in terms of the playing staff. And there's less and less people that were around when it happened to commemorate it. There's even kids that were around. And my dad would have been a kid when Munich happened, and he is still here now. But over the years, of course, they unfortunately will go. But it's so important we keep it as an important part of the calendar of Manchester United every year, and that falls on people like me, who's I'm in my 40s, that I pass down to my kids how important it is, because I'm proud and blessed that our club is born on. It is tragedy, but it's also recovery from tragedy. The Football League wanted United to fold, even if it was temporarily, and Jimmy Murphy said, "Over my dead body." And within 10 years, we were the champions of Europe. I'm so proud that that's the club that I support. And I feel very connected to Munich. Whenever I see anything about it, whenever I see pictures, whatever, it gets me every time. So that yesterday is just so special. And as I say, it needs to continue to be that way, because that really is the DNA of our club. And bringing it back to Old Trafford, that's where they played, and it wouldn't feel right it being somewhere else, I don't think. So we at least need to stay on the same site. We're not going to have any say over it. Football changes, sometimes in a way we don't like, but I hope that some traditions remain, and that Munich one's important, but I really hope we stay at least on the site of Old Trafford, because that's our home and that's where we belong. So God bless those Busby Babes from Manchester. Every year, February the 6th is important. Glazers out.